Hey, what is going on, everyone? Happy Friday. Hope everyone is having a great rest of the week leading into the weekend. Welcome to another edition of Titan Talk. I'm Isiah. Kilgoon with me as usual. No guest today just because we had some large shows towards the beginning of the week, right, Kilgoon?
We did, yeah. We had the kind of like full balance patch on Wednesday with Pawn, which is really huge balance patch, right? And really like a fundamental change in our balance philosophy for items. So excited to see how that plays out when people get their hands on OB7. And then Monday we went through all the other stuff in OB7, right? We went through Cerberus and the aspects for Cerberus and Poseidon and the new Wandering Market and acquisition screen
new
and
prisms,
and just like
supporter store stuff. So much stuff in
in
OB7. It's nuts.
A lot of really cool stuff in OB7. I think it's going to be a fun update for everybody. On Monday when it goes live.
Cool. Well, believe it or not, we spent a lot of time talking about OB7 on Monday and Wednesday, but there's still just a couple things that we wanted to call out. If you follow Pawn on Twitter, you may have gotten a sneak peek at some of the last-minute balance changes that we snuck in before Monday's update. But today we're just going to quickly scroll through patch notes. They are live now on Smite2.com.
Yes.
If you all want to follow along, but I will pull up the handy-dandy laptop here, and we're just going to kind of scroll through here, and if we see something that we haven't talked about yet, we're going to call it out.
I've never asked, but is the handy-dandy laptop like a little nod at Blue's Clues? Or
yes,
it
is.
Okay, sorry. My daughter is really into Blue's Clues right now,
nice. That's awesome.
And she's very excited. She's like, found a paw print. It's very cute.
Oh, that's awesome. Sweet. So Open Beta 7, the Tidy Tales update, because that's the new Wandering Market collection. You've got a nice summary at the top. Of course, we've got Cerberus that is going to be live with the update on Monday. And then Cerberus's Aspect is going to be releasing on April 11th, which is that Friday. Kind of in line with what we've done for this past update, right, Kilgoon?
Yep. So we thought that this went really well for Merlin, letting people focus on Merlin when he first came out. Then for the weekend, introducing the Aspect. And a lot of players only play on the weekends as well, right? So for people that only play on the weekends, you got both at once.
Exactly,
but it's spaced out a little bit. And then on Monday, getting the Emoji Aspect.
Right.
So it's kind of a good little every few days getting something new. Plus, we did a lot of events this update.
Yeah. Cool.
And we finally got the April Fool's event.
I know, right? So. Yeah, I saw a lot of people asking, what's this next God badge that I've got going on?
People wanted our angry badge. We thought it would be a funny way to do it. So if you haven't gotten that yet, I think you have another day or two to do it.
Yeah, I believe today's the last day.
Today's the last day.
If you want to hop in, play 3 games if you haven't already, and you'll get that badge.
Yeah.
We've got the supporter store that we talked about. We've got the name flares. One thing that we didn't talk about, we talked about the colors, but we've actually got another type of name flares that is going to be in this update as well. They're called sine waves, but Kilgoon, you know a little bit more about it than me. But
our art team was messing around with this, and they figured out a way to actually make your name have animation inside of it, so that basically it's like 2 colors, and there's like a wave that like moves through your name everywhere that your name appears. It's pretty cool. Again, these supporter store things are meant to be like premium purchases that are totally optional because they don't do a damn thing. Right. It's like, it looks cool. It's fun to have, but we're treating it as kind of this special thing for supporters. Right. So these are expensive. But it's meant to be a fun thing for people that want to throw in a few extra bucks and help us support the development of the game.
Yeah. And then we've got the global emote slots as well. We did call it out on that show, but it is VXE4 instead of VXEQ. So if you're purchasing those extra equip slots, those are the VGS commands to fire off all those global emotes.
Yep.
We've got the new Wandering Market, Tidy Tales with all the cool stuff. I will quickly scroll through this because we have
this
gone
art
through all that stuff.
Looks great.
Yeah, I love that we've got the
skins
patch notes. The skins in the patch notes now too. And new skins and cosmetics. Talked about all that stuff. There's a link to the community resource bank for anybody that wants the wallpaper sizes for all the card and stuff. You can click that and go there. We've got support notifications in OB7, so players will now get a notification if an action's been taken against the player they reported, or if they've been reported a good amount of times.
If you're up to no good,
exactly, you get the peacock side eye if you're up to no good.
Yep.
Under gameplay, we've got consumable dropping that we talked about on Wednesday. We've got a Wandering Market update. You're now able to purchase coins if you would like to for the Wandering Market. I know we got a few people asking that to be able to just purchase coins if they didn't want to play and get the coins through gameplay. So that's new in OB7.
Yeah. The Wandering Market is supposed to be balanced to where if you play the game a decent amount, not even like you're a no-lifer, right?
Yeah.
But if you play what we consider like an average Smite player over the course of 2 months, right, you should be able to get everything in the Wandering Market.
Yeah.
But sometimes life happens, right? Or sometimes if you're coming into Smite now and there's 2 honoring markets available,
Right.
and maybe you can only play enough to get the stuff out of one and you want the other one now, right? Like if you want to convert your money into coins, there's now an option to do that, right?
Similar to how in Smite when you could purchase battle pass levels.
Yeah. So again, like if you're an active player, you're probably not going to need to buy coins. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to talk.
Right. Yeah. We're not trying to convince you.
But I don't want people to get into a place where like they buy a bunch of coins and then they just have a bunch they're sitting on, right? But I think like if you saw your progress in the last one, should be the same for this one basically. You'll get the same far, and you probably maybe even have some coins saved up from the last one.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. This is more for people that want to do that. And it's not supposed to be a thing that you have to do.
Cool.
So.
We've got some targeter updates for a few gods. One thing that we've gotten a lot of community requests about, HUD editor is getting an update. So there's now going to be a new background opacity slider for the minimap. So you can change the opacity of the minimap and the minimap icons independently of each other.
Yeah, this is huge. This is one of the biggest complaints we got out of the last round of the HUD editor, which it was version 1. We knew there were things we still needed to do, right? But people that like to have their minimap like right in the center of their screen, but want to be able to see through it, but they want to be able to see like the towers and stuff on the minimap. Yeah. You'll now be able to adjust that and have a better situation.
Cool. Under game modes, Conquest, we talked about the wind sprites. Another big one that we didn't talk about in either of our other shows this week, Assault is getting some changes. So we got a lot of good feedback about the dev test. So we've taken that feedback and made some changes to Assault. So we've removed the side paths that were behind the towers. So that path that kind of goes between the T1 and T2 towers, that's been removed. We've removed the base doors and the base door paths around the Phoenixes. We've made the stealth grass patches a little bit smaller. And this is an experimental change, but one the level design team thought would be fun. We've added some wind sprites into the Assault map. So these are going to be in front of the tier 2 towers and near the middle of the map. I believe there's one in front of the T1 tower and another one in front of the T2 tower on both sides of the map. And this is mostly just for fun. And we were curious, this is a new mechanic in OB7, and we wanted to bring it into Assault just to kind of see how it shakes up the mode. Our level design team was talking about how in playtests we've seen tanks and assassins specifically utilize these with the removal of those side paths. The wind sprites have definitely helped them out with engages and stuff like that. So we're going to be adding them to the Assault dev test map. The art has been a little bit more fleshed out, but there's still some gray boxes as well. But keep on sending us your feedback if you play some more Assault and OB7. There's a new iteration of the mode that people can try out.
Yeah, and again, this is leading into our whole testing in live development. This is a beta. We're going to treat it like a beta philosophy, right? This may not be the final iteration of the Assault map, right? I see there's some people who in chat are like, bring back the side paths. I think the feedback that we got out of the first round was that if you were primarily a Conquest or Joust player, you liked the side paths. If you were primarily an Assault player, you did not like the side paths.
Yeah.
So we're going to try a round like this and see how it feels. But it's possible that once we play with it like this, people say, you know what, I actually missed the side paths. Let's bring them back. Right. So I think it is it's the next iteration of the test.
Exactly.
The internet encourages us to react very passionately to things. And I love seeing people's passionate reactions. But like, treat this as the next round in a test. Let us know if it feels better or worse. We'll keep taking feedback and we'll keep making it better.
Yeah, and as you can see, the team was able to iterate on this pretty quickly since we implemented the first test. And I've actually got it up on the laptop. I'll bring it up as well so people can see. I'll unmute just so we can have a little bit of audio. And just to show people what's going on here.
Just the casual blink.
I know, right? Hey, I want to go fast. Maybe I can level up some abilities here.
I guess the first thing here is the side path right there.
Yeah.
Right. So
this has been closed off. There's no more base doors for people to loop around.
Yep.
You've still got a little bit of areas here if you want to hide and, wait for the rest of your team.
A little bit more, but not quite as much as that was.
And of course, we've got the wind sprite here. And then I believe a little bit later on into the game, wind sprites will spawn here and then as well. And then we've still got the loop around. We've still got the double jungle buff things on the side for people to kind of fight over, to kind of contest these buffs and pickups, one on both sides. As you can see, the stealth grass has been trimmed down just a little bit, but there's still some stealth grass on both sides.
Yep.
But again, no path that will loop around between the T1 and the T2 towers.
Yep.
And again, you see some gray boxes as well. Again, the team has done a little bit of art treatments, but as we continue to work and iterate on the map based off feedback, didn't quite get it all yet. But, as you can see, we've got the little frog here that's chilling with the waterfall.
Yep. Just a little set dressing.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing what people think about this next iteration of the Assault Dev Test map. And as always, we'll continue to keep an eye on what people are talking about, keep an eye on feedback, bring it back to our level design team, and they're going to continue to cook and iterate on the map.
Yep. And again, this was in response to, pretty overwhelming feedback in, our survey and in other places where we were looking for feedback from people that they wanted to see a version like this. That the best part about the new Assault map was that the lane was wider, but some of the extra stuff maybe went a little too far.
Right.
So we're testing this. Again, could bring the other stuff back if we get feedback the other way as we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Duel has a small change that we haven't talked about yet. We've removed Sunder from the mode. Got a lot of feedback from some of our hardcore Duel community that Sunder was just feeling just a little bit too powerful in terms of the relic options available. So it's just been flat out removed from the mode. So we'll see how Duel shakes up with this change. Moving on to God Balance, a couple of new things that we haven't talked about yet. Achilles is getting a nerf to his Gift of Gods passives. We've decreased the armored per level health from 15 to 10. So he's just not as tanky,
Yeah, I think that this was a bringing him more in line with the new item balance shift, right? So he was just getting more stuff than anybody else. So he was going to be stronger.
Yep, and then Amaterasu going to be seeing a nerf to her aspect. Going to be decreasing the aura for strength and intelligence and the basic attack damage. So still getting a lot of feedback that Amaterasu's aspect is still feeling pretty strong. So going to be seeing a little bit of a nerf there.
Yep, and again, similarly, it's to reflect the changes in the overall stat balance.
Cool. All the rest of the God balance is the same from when we talked about it on Wednesday, except for, let me see if I can find our boy, Cabrakan. Yes. Yeah. So we're still keeping the kind of incentivizing the percent health and the damage mitigation. Still feeling good about that, but got a lot of feedback after we announced the initial changes to Cabrakan that the damage side was still feeling a little bit too much. So we're going to be decreasing the base and enhanced base damage of Refraction Shield. So this is going to be a true shift now instead of just a flat-out buff.
Yep.
That is it for new God balance that we haven't talked about yet already. In terms of items, we've got a nice little preface here that we kind of talked about. So if you want more detail into kind of the reasons why what we're doing, the plan forward for the next 3 updates in terms of item balance, Pon wrote up a great write-up here for a little bit of extra context on all the item changes. And as you can see, as we continue to scroll, there's a lot. Just about every item in the game is here.
I heard that we hit the character count limit for a Steam news
yes,
post,
we hit the character cap for Steam, trying to get these patch notes up on Steam. But there is a change to Glorious Pridwin. The increased explosion damage and the increased shield have been nerfed additionally. So these changes were initially 75% here and 150% here. Going to be decreasing that explosion damage to 65 and 125 respectively for both of those.
Yep, and then Glad Shield also received a further nerf, I think, right, from what it was initially was. So,
yeah, and then I believe that is it in terms of new content that is in these patch notes that we haven't talked about, but there's a lot here. So chat, if patch notes are live right now on smite2.com. We're not going to run through every single change just because we did a good job at talking about everything, but all the numbers are here in case people want to reference it before they're able to hop in game when OB7 launches on Monday.
Yeah.
So, gosh, I'm scrolling a lot. Oh, some bug fixes. Let's talk about these really quick. So we fixed an issue where buff belts would show incorrect iconography on medium and low settings. For gods, Yamoja's ability 2 targeter sizing has been adjusted to match the gameplay better. The Seraph's Bow Neath Skin has been updated to improve enemy coloration on abilities. We added grass culling to Merlin's ability targeters, and we fixed an issue where Loki would get in a state where he would move very slowly. Got a lot of feedback, and this one was a little bit tough for us to hunt down, but this one will be fixed in OB7.
Travis found another interesting way to make yourself move slowly yesterday, which I don't think is fixed here, so I'm not going to call it. But it's something you can do to yourself that
okay,
is
don't give them the
little
details.
thing.
Yeah,
It doesn't actually like change the gameplay, and you can fix yourself very easily. But it's funny.
And then for Conquest, we fixed an issue where the Pathfinder or Yellow buff was not healing the owner for the right amount when defeating a jungle camp. So all the junglers and speed buff enjoyers got a bug fix coming for you in OB7. And of course, to cap off the patch notes, we've got all the voice actors for all the new skins coming into OB7. So lots of great folks here, lots of awesome voice talent, lots of awesome skins that players can look forward to in our next Smite 2 update. Yep. And I believe that is all that we had to cover. We wanted to go through that really quickly just because we know we haven't done a whole lot of Q&A this week. So we wanted to leave the majority of the show for players to hop in and ask us questions about Smite 2 and what we got going on.
Yep. And then just kind of looking forward, Monday will probably also be a lighter show because it is patch day. So we don't try and plan too much for patch day because we aren't sure how busy we're going to be.
You never know how patch day is going to go.
And then we'll announce what we have planned for Wednesday and Friday next week soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, just hanging out on Monday and today. So
sweet. All right. Well, chat, what do you want to talk about? We got about 45 minutes left in the show, so we'll open up the floor for questions.
Let's see. Have I seen Weekend's comment about God Builder in his latest video? I have not.
No, I haven't seen it either.
But if you tell us what he said, I can.
Yeah.
We're pretty excited about the idea of God Builder. We think it's one of the most important things to help players transition from being a new player to understanding items and figuring out like what you're doing. So I think it continues to be a big priority for us. We are, we're working on it. Should be hopefully in OB8.
Yeah. Let's see here. I noticed the VGS for High Velocity Hecate has no audio on Xbox. Thanks for the report. We will check that out.
Yep.
I'll talk to Kellen and see if we can take a look at it. Let's see here. Can we fix aspects after being enabled once, always default back to on after a relog?
I think that they remember what you have set in the gods page.
Okay.
But I don't know if they...
Like if you toggle it in the match lobby.
Yeah, I don't remember what the design intent is there. If they wanted it to have you remember what you used last time, assuming that you would probably use it the next time or not. So I guess it would be a question for what the design intent on that was.
Cool.
They don't save after being disabled in the main menu. Oh, okay.
Cool. Is there a reason why the Easter Nuwa skin didn't get a full splash art, but the chest version did? It just comes down to, we had a conversation with Ben, the art director, and, the state that the team is in, we've got to, figure out what we've got time for. So some skins in the future will not receive full splash art. Some will. It's just kind of, what we want to prioritize.
Yeah. And for context, we mean the wide screen.
Yes.
Right. So everything will get splash art that fills the card that you see in game. But that extra side illustration we don't really use it. It's just something that was kind of a nice for community thing for the handful of people who use it as wallpaper or something, I guess. And it's just hard to justify doing that for every skin when we aren't using it.
Yeah. I'm sure this has been asked before, but is there any idea of when we can see builds in match history? It's nice to go back and review the other players' builds.
Yeah, so that is on our to-do list for the UI team. I think it's still a couple updates out because we have other things that we're prioritizing with our UI time. But it is something that we know is not great. In the short term, it's, again, not as good as doing it in-game, but you can go to tracker.gg and look up your match history and see what people built there.
Is there a reason why we didn't use VX1, VX2, etc. for the global emotes? It's just one less key press, but I think it'd be nice.
I'm not sure. We could look at it. I think that To some extent, there is the VXC muscle memory, and we thought it just made sense to put it as a submenu under that.
Yeah.
It probably does still need to be under a submenu on console VGS. I don't know. There is a maximum number of things that can be in a list on PC VGS, and we might have been running up against that if we put it there. But yeah, I don't have like a firm reason why we didn't put it there. You can remap VGS things to some extent, though. So,
do you know if we're going to be changing auto builds after the big item changes coming soon?
Not 100% sure. We are planning on putting. Let me rephrase this. We are planning to ship the God Builder system in OB8 theoretically. So that should come out about the same time as the big specialization pass.
changes.
And that should be a pretty good place to find builds, hopefully, if things are going correctly. I'm not sure it'll be tied into auto build yet in OB8. I think that probably will follow in OB9, but at least there should be a way to find builds.
Yeah. Are we able to sell the consumables that we pick up after a teammate has dropped them? I believe you can, but I haven't tested that, so don't hold me to it. But I believe that you can sell those.
Yep. This post says that Weekend said that pros and content creators aren't going to put the time in to create builds builds in the God Builder. I think that we will see that people will create builds, right? I think if you look at other games that have these systems, the builds aren't necessarily just coming from the current content creators. Sometimes other people are, build creators. Also, like, if you as a pro are creating a build for yourself, right, then you can share it with everybody else, right? I think we also do see there are some pros that just keep their own build documents currently, right? So the hope is that they would want to do that in game instead, where people could access a lot more easily. And there's also a place in these builds for basically like open text fields. So if you want to promote your stream and create builds that are like, hey, come watch my stream to see me use it, right? Like, there's now in-game promotion for you as a content creator if you choose to do this.
Let's see here. I lost it. Will future Legacy Smite 1 skins have the prism treatment with different colors for diamonds? I know we're doing that with Thanatos, but any thoughts about, if that's going to be something that we think about moving forward?
Yeah, I think I believe we already are planning to do that for the next update. There's definitely a few more classic skins on the roster that we're planning for prisms for already. I think it's I think that people have reacted well to prisms so far, and it's kind of a fun thing that we can do to maybe make classic skins a little more interesting. Also, it can help us make a little bit more money as well, to be clear, right? Like, I mean, classic skins, when we do the work to bring them over, 99% of players are getting those with their legacy gems.
Right.
And I think that having an option to spend a little bit of money on the thing if you want a different color is a thing that feels okay to the player base and also can help recoup the costs of doing that work a little bit.
Cool. Can I intentionally drop an item? Like, I'm supporting. I want to hand people Gatorade. So you can't intentionally drop it. You have to have both consumable slots full. Then you have to pick up something else on the map that's in the game space that takes up a consumable slot. So things like Obsidian Dagger, Eye of the Jungle, Cyclops Wards. If you pick up one of those while both consumable slots are active and one of them has a droppable item, because not all consumables are droppable, everything is listed in the patch notes, but then you can drop an item. But you can't just like buy a potion, go to lane, and then drop it for your carry.
We didn't want, basically, like, there are games where you can do this where the support becomes expected to spend all of their gold on helping other people, right? And we don't want it to turn into, I can't play the game and have fun myself because I need to buy things for other people. So I think that it's a fine line to walk to let people have fun with a feature like this, but not turn it into something that is net bad for the game.
Let's see. Now that matchmaking and ranked is feeling a little bit better, I'm sure you guys plan to keep looking for ways to improve. Any plans to do a hard reset?
Yeah, so there's still one bigger piece of matchmaking tech that we're waiting on right now. I think it's supposed to be done today.
Nice. Awesome.
Maybe Monday. I'm not sure if it'll actually like roll out in live, as part of OB7 or sometime later or whatnot. But I think that when I was talking to Max yesterday, I think he said it was supposed to, scheduled to be done today for at least the tech side. And once we get that piece of tech, which basically will allow us to treat. So matchmaking right now is a pretty good experience unless you are one of the best players or one of the worst players. And by worst, it could also mean like you are a new player. So this tech will allow us to treat those players slightly differently and apply different matchmaking rules to try and help them find better matches. And I don't have too much more detail than that because I'm not as into it as Max is.
Right.
But that's like the very short version. So once we get that tech in, then and kind of see how that plays out a little bit, then I think Max is thinking that we would do some kind of a reset after that has been out for, after we know the impact of that system. Yeah. And whether it's going to be a hard reset or a soft reset, I couldn't tell you right now because I haven't seen the data. But I know that there is thought that we will probably need to do some sort of a reset, but we're just waiting a tiny bit till we get this next piece of tech.
Let's see here. We've talked about it on a couple of shows, but any word or update on accolades for Smite 2?
Do you mean like the screen?
Yeah,
that's still a ways out. I think it's one of those things that, again, it feels really nice, but there's just so many other UI priorities that we have right now. The God Builder is just an absolute massive arc of work, and that's taking up almost all of our UI resources right now. And then there's a few other things that we really want to do. I should pull up my list. There you go. It'd be fun to talk through.
And then as you pull that up, the second part of that question is, do you know if when we get them in, will they retain historical data from Smite 2?
I don't know, but I would assume so.
Cool.
But don't hold me to that, please, because I'm not sure. But I would assume that it would.
Cool.
You know what? I think the Wi-Fi doesn't work in here anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure.
I might not be able to pull this up. That would have been fun to talk about.
Yeah, cool. Will we get a popular items tab in the item shop?
No, our current plan is to lean more into surfacing the God Builder stuff. We think that is going to be a better source of this kind of information for the vast majority of players.
Cool.
Because popular items in Smite 1 was based on like machine learning. These are the popular items kind of stuff. But most players never regarded it as something that they could trust or take seriously because there was no like community proof that this was a good thing, right? And the assumption was if we were putting it out there, it was probably wrong in some way. So we think that the fact that you'll be able to see, oh, hey, this build has a ton of stars and it's called, face punch Amir. Yeah. That's what I want to do. I'm going to click on that.
I want to punch faces. Yeah.
Yeah. So we think that that'll just be a better experience.
Cool. Do we have any update on new player experience things and short-term objectives for expanding the player base?
So I would say we do have some new player experience things on the radar. Most of our effort right now is still focused on fixing a couple of the like more general issues, if that makes sense, right? Like a lot of our programming resources right now are going into that movement system that we covered a week ago.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that it goes at least testing sometime during OB7. It might not go into live servers during OB7. But something like that just improves the base feel of the game from second one should lead to better new player retention, right? And there's, things like this item pass that we're doing to make item building more interesting. Things like the God Builder, which is going to help not your first few games, honestly, because you're still auto building your first few games, but will help you turn into a couple game player into a 20, 30,000 game player, right? We think that systems like that are really important, and those are the things that we're focusing on more so right now. We do have some designs for more specific, like brand new player features that we are working on. but they're not quite. They're not next on the to-do list because we feel like this other stuff is just more important to make the core game better, right? Basically, like most of our work is kind of split into like 4 categories, I would say, right? We have the God pipeline, which is a huge lift, right? Keeping the gods going. Even a god every 2 weeks is a lot of work.
Right.
We have features that are meant to like engage players, right? So new aspects, items, balance, the events that we do, things like that. There are monetization features because we have to make money or else we are no longer a company and we can't keep making the game, right? And then there's like what we call like a big bucket of like core game improvements, right? And I think that NPE stuff NPE stuff does fall into that bucket of all of the core game improvements that we can be doing. So we're just constantly trying to prioritize like what's the thing that's most important for the game right now. I have a design that I really like for new players. I want to make it so that like I don't know if anybody here has played Final Fantasy 14. Final Fantasy 14 is great, by the way. I'm an MMO gamer at heart. That's where I played so much EverQuest. I played so much WoW. I was one of the best players in the world at Shadowbane.
Oh, nice.
But like I'm not trying to like
not trying to flex on anything, you know.
I was the reason why I got into Smite in the first place was because it felt like I was playing a PvP MMO, but I didn't have to like grind for better gear. And it's like I could go through the whole like leveling experience and get try different builds every game. And I just like this is so much fun. I love it, right? But anyway, in Final Fantasy 14, looping back to what I was talking about, if you're a new player, you have a little sprout next to your name, right? And this basically lets other people know that you are new. And generally speaking, they're either helpful or if you make a mistake, they blame you a little bit less because they understand that you're new, right? And I think that even something as simple as that for Smite 2 to where it's like, if I have a new player in my game, I know that they're a new player at least, and I can like mentally prepare myself for that and not just be like, what the fuck, this guy's 0-11, like I think that something like that is helpful, right? And I think that, again, it's not going to last for very long, right? Smite 2 is not that kind of game. It's not like until you're level 30, you have a sprout or whatever, right? But I think that like just for your first few levels, something like that, along with some other systems to help new players transition more smoothly into the game, are something that we would like to do at some point in the future, not immediately. Cool. The other part of that question, sorry, this has been a really long answer, but I think
you're fine. The
other part of that question was like, how are we getting new players into the game? Right. So this last week, or was it last week? Last week?
Gosh, I feel like it was last week. Yes, it was late last week. Yeah.
So last week we did announce that we have become a partner with Game Pass, which is if you're not a Game Pass subscriber, Game Pass is huge. There are a lot of people that basically will only play games that are on Game Pass. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if your game is free. It has to be listed with the Game Pass games for visibility. Since listing our game on Game Pass, our Xbox and PC Xbox player base has, I'm not going to give you a number because it's gone up substantially, is all I'm going to say. And so we are getting a lot more new players than we were previously because of this Game Pass deal. We also are exploring some things that we don't want to. The game is not ready for like a huge ad spend, but we do want to start doing a little bit more targeted, like a small baseline acquisition ad campaign to try and just get a certain level of new players every day to test more of these NPE changes that we are doing so that we get better data about like, is this a good improvement? Is this a bad improvement? So like, those are kind of some of the things that we're doing right now. There's other things that we have planned and are either doing or, are in the planning stages, but we're definitely aware of it. I think that do you always want to have more players as a video game unless you're Fortnite? Yes, of course you do. But I don't think that we're, terrified with our current player numbers or anything.
Let's see here. Can we show the avatar also in the loading page? There are not so many places to show my profile cosmetics that are not in the party lobby with my same friends.
Yeah. So we talked about this when we first started making Smite 2, and we thought that it was better to give you 3 badge slots for each god rather than show the one that's associated with your profile. I think the problem primarily is that there isn't an equip all button.
Yes.
Because realistically, if there's one that you just like identify with, you're probably going to equip all that to like slot 1 on every god, right? Or most gods at least. So we need to get that in. That is one of the things on our UI backlog that hopefully will come relatively soon. But yeah. Why are things releasing on the 14th instead of releasing everything at once? We find that people like having a steady flow of new content. There are some people that would rather have everything at once. And there's some people that would tell you they would rather have everything at once, but actually they experience it better by having it spread out, even just by a few days. So it's like, I can think about this thing for a day. I can think about this thing for a day. I can think about this thing for a day. It's kind of like, this is maybe a weird corollary, but like in video games, you will often get feedback that people just want more action. They want more activity. They want more to do. They hate being bored in a video game. But if there aren't downtime moments in a game, then people very quickly become like burned out and like it's too much for people to handle, right? So it's kind of like, how do you maintain a steady flow of things versus here's everything all at once, burn yourself out, and then don't play for 2 weeks, right?
A follow-up question about God Builder. I wanted to ask about features that would be important. Easy ability to send your friends builds, and that high-res would clear public builds every few months to prevent a clog of builds that haven't been updated for new patches.
So the builds will surface when they were last updated.
Oh, nice, cool.
So so that has been figured out already. I don't know if we've thought about sending builds from friends, but I do know that you can search. I believe you'll be able to search for like creators and you can like make copies of builds and stuff.
Nice.
So you would be able to search for your friends. That might be a good note of like, should we try and surface your friends build? But then how do you prioritize like highly upvoted versus my friends?
Yeah.
Right. Like,
yeah. We've also got the upvote system. You can upvote builds and those will be, right to the top.
And it's actually just like favorited, I guess is the way to think of it. It's like, it's because we didn't want to do like upvote, downvote, because then it's like, if I'm just going to throw a name out here, please don't take this. But if the community's mad at Weekend and they decide to downvote all of his stuff, right? Like if he's making good builds, I don't know if that's like fair.
Right,
So I think I didn't want like negative sentiment to outweigh positive sentiment around something. Like that's the way that is going to work. So I think it's like, how do you sort like your own builds? Make sense to put those at the top, and then like ones that you've favorited and ones that are like very highly favorited with the community, and then maybe you put your friends builds after that. But I don't know. I think it's like that's the only thing to think about.
Yeah. Let's see here. Could skins that already exist in Smite 2 get prisms in the future?
Theoretically, yes. There's nothing preventing that from happening. Maybe in some cases, they're like if a skin was built in a certain way that doesn't allow it, maybe. But by and large, it would theoretically be possible. Most of the ones that we have planned right now, actually, I think all the ones we have planned right now are for upcoming skins. But if there are ones the community would really like us to go back to, we can certainly consider it.
Are builds going to be God specific?
Builds are God specific, and they also are tagged with a role or mode.
Cool.
So if you want to have this is my Mulan assault build, you can have that. How does the drop consumables tech work when I'm buying consumables from the store with a full inventory? I believe that works the same as it does now, where it just uses, consumes
Instantly
the thing.
uses it. Yeah. Let's see here. Is there a way to read up on stats caps on gods? In Smite 2, there are no stat caps.
Yeah, there are no stat caps. So it's, I think there might be kind of a effective attack
Yeah.
speed cap, but I'm not even sure about that. But essentially, it works a little bit differently. I know that Flare Boot is working on his Word of Thought for Smite too, so that'll be good once it's done. But yeah, basically, it's not like you have 40% CDR cap
then,
like you did. You know,
don't benefit from it anymore.
Yeah. We wanted to make it so that it was more flexible in Smite 2 to build the things that you want to build. I think that the problem was that the items themselves were not like specialized enough to make that interesting, which is why we're going through this pass right now, where this update has the kind of like stat squish, and then the next update will be focused more on how we specialize these items to really be interesting choices at all levels.
Let's see here. What Smite 1 mechanic would you want to bring back the most?
That's tough. I think there's a lot of things that I like about Smite 1.
Yeah.
I think that most of them are probably more... the things that are coming to mind right now are more like map objectives. You know, I personally... Like, this is a dumb one that I will say it as a example of why I like the thing, right? The meteors.
Yeah.
Right? I think that the meteors are interesting because they give you something else to fight in your lane every so often. And I like things that encourage PvP conflict over a PvE thing usually.
Yeah.
That you don't have to run around the map to do. So I like things like that in Smite 1. Yeah. I think that by and large, the vast majority of Smite 2 is just better than Smite 1 though, right? I like the item system better. I like the movement better. I like, I like the gods. Like, I think the item system, even with the items being broken, is or not broken, but not balanced properly, is better. You know, I think I like the active items. Like there's so much that I like better about Smite 2 that I played my first game of Smite 1 in a little while yesterday, actually, because I was doing some research on some things, and I was like, it felt older than I thought it would.
Yeah.
But there were definitely a few things that jumped out, like, you know, that were good design decisions, like the meteors and other things.
Do you have any updates on how we're progressing on the movement update from when we had Nick on the show last week?
It is coming along. There are still a few edge cases, primarily related towards dashing at people who are walking away from you.
Yeah.
That seems to be the hardest last thing to nail down, because in those cases, it's like, which movement are we predicting and pre-caching and like, or saved movement, you know, like, so those are the hardest ones to work on, or that we still need to solve, where it's just like, how do we want to do that? The goal is that we'll have hopefully some kind of a test publicly during OB7, most likely on like as a flash test to get started. Yeah. And then hopefully, you know, sometime soon it will hit live servers, because we aren't very far away. It's really, I think that might be the last real remaining. It just doesn't feel better yet, is when you dash at somebody who is moving away from you.
Cool. Is there an intent to do a big mid-season patch to generate some hype, similar to how we had mid-season patches in Smite 1?
I think that, like, we're moving so fast right now that it's hard for us to say exactly what we're going to do in a month versus, 6 months from now. I think that once we get through a few things that we know that we need to get done, we will be better able to plan for bigger future beats. I am a strong believer in creating bigger beats, which is, it's actually like counterintuitively harder to do when you're shipping a ton of content like we are. Like, if we were, not that I'm saying that we're going to do this, but if we were shipping a god a quarter, it'd be much easier to have a huge hype build up and, yada yada around this god, because that would be like the big rallying point, right? We had the same issue when we were when Paladins was shipping gods or champions all the time. It's hard to get people as excited for the new stuff because you're shipping so much new stuff. So that isn't me saying that we're going to slow down, but that is me saying that like I believe in big beats to get people excited and rally behind, and we're going to get back towards that once we get through some of this like still groundwork level stuff that we're working on.
Let's see here. Accepting trade requests and ranked on Xbox isn't allowing it to go through. It just times out in auto declines. I believe we are aware of that.
That is on our to fix list. I think it's supposed to be fixed. I'm not promising, but I think that that's on the list to fix for OB8.
Yeah.
There's a number of issues with the draft lobby that we were hoping to fix all at once, and I think that is currently scheduled for OB8. Announcer packs, I think, are also OB8 or 9 or maybe 10, but they're on the to-do list. We are planning to bring over announcer packs in the next month or two. What are your favorite pizza toppings? This is in Italian. I need to know. That's tough. I like a lot of kinds of pizza. My wife is vegetarian, so usually when we're eating pizza at home, we get vegetarian toppings. I would say like my personal favorite kind of pizza is like just classic margarita. Give me just some tomatoes, some mozzarella, a little bit of basil. Yeah. It's like it's hard to beat it when it's done right. I also like I like pizzas that have like sausage and like arugula.
Oh, nice.
I think
that's interesting.
Good pairing.
I'm basic, pepperoni, sausage, and I'm good to go.
Yeah. Anyway, mushrooms are the best pizza topping. Mushrooms are pretty good.
Mushrooms are good.
Yeah. Hawaiian? No. So this is so I'm half Italian, half like random American amalgamation, and like I can respect people that like Hawaiian pizza, but I think it's very weird that like Hawaiian pizza is better with ranch. And ranch and pizza just shouldn't go together. But for some reason, it works for Hawaiian pizza, and I don't understand it.
Let's see here.
Goat cheese, figs, and balsamic truffle. Dude, like, I just had lunch. You make me hungry again. Anyway, let's see.
Get us back on track. I just had lunch. I'm getting hungry again.
I get distracted sometimes with the show. Can you make ward skins god level cosmetics? For example, I'd like to use the cat ward with just my maid skins. That is an interesting idea. I think that for right now, we feel like people find it more of a hassle to equip things on a god level. So we've moved a couple of things recently to be on a more account level. Yeah. Once we make it easier to equip things on a god level, we might move things back. But for now, I think it's more likely that more people will use it being on an account level. Yeah.
Will new Smite 2 only players ever have the chance to get Divine Legacy skins?
Never say never. I think that we wanted to make sure that it stayed exclusive for Smite 1 players for at least a while, because it's supposed to be like in recognition of the time and effort that you put into Smite 1. If we did make them available in Smite 2, my guess is that they would be priced higher than normal skins. Again, just because part of what makes them special is that there's a little bit of rarity and prestige tied to them. And we wouldn't want people to feel like, this thing that was supposed to honor my history in Smite is now available for 3 cents,
Yeah.
It's not something that we're saying it's never going to happen, but it's just we need to think about how to do it the right way.
I definitely get the question. One of the things that we've been moving away from is kind of like the FOMO kind of stuff. So where we can, we definitely want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to get, whatever they want.
Yeah, and these are really like kind of the only ones that are that way in Smite 2, other than, right now the Zeus one is also.
I need to follow up and figure out when we're actually going to price him.
Yeah, that's going to be priced, and I think is Jade Dragon Bologna the same way?
Yeah, same way.
Yeah, so we got to price that one too. Like, but those were just meant to be like a timed exclusive thing. The Divine Legacy ones are the only ones that I'm more worried about because, I don't want people to feel like their Smite 1 journey wasn't worth it. when can we buy worshiper boosters? No ETA on that, but I think that we will probably add boosters at some point in time. We never really sold a ton in Smite 1, but I think that it's something that will come back at some point.
Let's see. Will the option of picking our own reward after buying a certain number of chest rolls come back?
Maybe eventually. It was just a piece of tech that we didn't have in the new engine, and we have to build again. We don't really have that many chests right now, and we don't really have that many big chests other than, I guess, the classic skin chest. So we didn't think it was... And oftentimes, a lot of the really big chests in Smite 1 didn't have the what was that feature called?
I forget what the name of it was. Yeah.
Treasure choice.
Yes.
Yeah, they
treasure
didn't have the treasure choice feature. But it's something that we have definitely talked about and may come back at some point in the future, but just didn't seem like a priority for where we were right now.
Yeah. Can
you put a baseball cap on Agni? I think he'd rock the fit. This is an important life or death question. Isn't he wearing a hat on one of his heads in the Curse Agni skin in Smite 1?
I think he is. Yeah.
I think one head is a hat and the other one is a pair of headphones.
Yeah.
If I recall correctly. So take a look at that skin. Let me know if he is rocking the fit.
This is a fun one. Was Smite 2 a bigger task than you originally thought it would be?
I would say it's a different task than we thought it would initially be, if that made sense. I think that everybody understood that it was going to be a huge undertaking. I think the things that are hard are different than the things that we thought would be hard to some extent. And I think also a lot of that has been, one of the harder pieces has been figuring out what the community wants from Smite 2. And I think that some of our initial expectations and goals for the project didn't align with what a large section of the community wanted, right? We get, if things are just the tiniest bit different from Smite 1, we get a lot of negative feedback about it, right? And I think we were thinking that we would have a little bit more freedom and flexibility to reimagine certain things in Smite 2. And I think that you can see that where we started out, right? We weren't as focused on making sure the gods were frame perfect from Smite 1 to Smite 2, right? It was more that we were trying to evoke the feel of it in a slightly different way that we thought was better in some ways. But what we found is that different has almost always just been perceived as worse by the community. So it's been challenging to find ways where we can push and evolve the game to make it better and more modern that are accepted while still being true to the things that people loved about Smite 1 and don't want to see changed, right? So it's been challenging for sure. But in terms of just the raw amount of work to make it happen, I think that we largely expected it was going to be hard. So
can Sunder automatically show the current damage with scaling without doing the math? Are you looking just like the tooltip Nova Ultimatum, or where are you looking to see those numbers? And we can pass that along to the team. I see a couple people asking about this.
Actually, I'm not sure.
Yeah, where are y'all looking to see those numbers? The tooltip. Okay, we'll pass that along to the team.
Have we considered holes in the map that work just like walls, blocking paths, but you can see through them, and some gods won't be able to interact with them? We have kind of a little bit, I would say. I think that the hard thing is you definitely still have to have some sort of a border around it so that people know that it's not, there needs to be a wall.
Yeah.
There needs to be something that kind of at least comes up to half height on most gods, or else people do not understand that it is not a thing that you can walk through and they get mad about it. So we have experimented with that. There was actually something like that. I don't know if it made it in the final version, but there was something like that on the Joust map when we were in early development on the Joust map that was just kind of an open lower area.
Oh, nice.
But it I think that like it was hard to make it feel like this is a place that you can't go, which is important for a map.
Let's see here. Here's another fun question. Do you think listening to the angry mob, in quotation marks, too much when it comes to elevating Smite 2 is a good idea versus just going with our gut, just going with our gut in hopes that newer players will find it intriguing? For me, it seems obvious that Smite 1 players like Smite 1 mechanics, but this is Smite 2 after all.
So I think
there's a balance.
It's a balance, right?
Yeah.
And you see it when you swing past, as certain people like to say. I think if we ignore the things that made Smite 1 successful, and that made such a passionate player base like y'all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would be a disservice to the game and to the players, right? I'm going to give just like a random example of a game in history. Probably none of you remember this because it's a very old game. MMOs, once again, Asheron's Call. First Asheron's Call was incredible. Asheron's Call 2 was just a completely different game that was still an MMO, and I think the world was vaguely similar, but it was completely different. And even if it was a good MMO, the fact that it didn't feel like Asheron's Call made people like dismissive of it,
mm-hmm.
right? So I think that like we need to be true to what Smite is and what makes Smite work. But we are consistently trying to find ways to push it, to take it to the next level. And that includes both like, how do we make a game that is appealing to new players, and how do we make a game that is still interesting to the people that are currently playing, right? So I think that, there are some things that we've done that make the game more complicated. There are some things that we've done that make the game easier. Like one of the things that some people do complain about a lot that we don't currently have any plans to change is that your mana regen is just a lot higher in Smite 2, right? In Smite 1, like people run out of mana all the time. It's a really bad part of like the new player experience, right? And I think there still should be like some limits on your usage of abilities, which is why we still have mana. But I think that that's an example of like a relatively small change that's an improvement that makes the game much better for new players, and that most current players aren't too bothered by. There's some that don't like it. But some people are not going to like it when you change anything. We just have to pick the things that we think make the most sense to evolve the game and not abandon what made the game great, right? Like the thing that always comes up is people are always like, why doesn't this game have verticality, right? I think we just feel like that's not Smite, right? Like from the beginning, we were talking about what makes Smite Smite, and I think that the way that the core of how it plays, that it plays like a MOBA, and it has the action bits, right? It plays like an action game, but it still plays like a MOBA, and I think that's what we're trying to be. It's not trying to be a hero shooter. It's not trying to be this crazy hectic thing. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more methodical and like positioning and thinking intensive, right? So I think that like we're happy with things like that, and if we find ways that we can make big changes that everybody likes that evolves the game, we'll keep looking for those. But that's kind of where we are. I wasn't looking at the screen for a while, so I don't see any questions.
I don't know if we have any hard plans about it, but I just see this question. Are we ever going to be able to see our latency in game? I know there was a thread with Pon and Travis and a couple of our engineers talking about, the ability to pull that up. I don't know if there's a hard plan for that, but I know there are discussions being had about that for sure.
Can damage taken and dealt screen go by recent instead of amount? We think that amount is actually a better view to understand what caused you to die. We think there are two key things that are missing from that screen right now. One of them is a thing that indicates what the thing that killed you is.
Yeah, what the final hit was.
Like the killing blow, right? And also like a number of times that a thing dealt damage to you, right? Because it's like, I took 800 damage from Rama basic attack. Was that 8 basic attacks?
Yeah.
Was that 1 basic attack? Like, what happened? So I think that those two things missing are what leads to most of the frustration with that system right now. And otherwise, I think it's just a strict improvement from Smite 1.
Cool. We're at 2 o'clock, Kilgoon, so it's time for
One more question.
before we close out the week and get ready for OB7 on Monday.
Yeah. I'm excited for the weekend. It's been a long week. I'm tired.
Really productive week, though. Lots of cool stuff.
It's been busy, man. Yeah. That's why I'm tired. There's so much stuff going on. We didn't do our Alani check. We can do that.
We were both on the Cherry Twist train.
Yeah, we restocked. So I think that peach is probably your favorite.
Yeah, I love the juicy peach. I haven't had it in a long time.
Yeah,
now.
we need to see if we can get that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is maybe a good one. What are you doing to address griefers? My only issue with matchmaking is somebody dies 2 to 3 times and either quits or sits in fountain for the rest of the game. We put out a blog post on Wednesday,
I believe,
that was written by our director of player experience, Radar.
I will pull it up here.
Yeah, so it's called Safeguarding Smite 2. And this talks a little bit about some of the stuff that we're doing. One of the big things that we're rolling out and we're continuing to work with is this thing called getgood.io, which looks at all of our data in the background to be able to tell when people are doing bad things.
Yes.
Right. And then accounts are flagged for enforcement or for like watch. So like this is a cool thing right here. Like this is this shows a player sitting in the fountain for a significant portion of the match, right? Like we know where you are on the map. So we do things like this to be able to find players and to take action on them, right? And you will now be able to see when we take action on them with these new
notifications.
Yep. The thing that we don't do, right, is we don't ban people in real time, right? So if somebody is AFK in your game, they are not going to be banned in that game, right?
Right.
So I know that like it can be frustrating if you're in a game with somebody that isn't doing good things, but I would say that like we are continuing to improve our systems to make sure that they don't disrupt future games for other people, and hopefully won't disrupt your games again. So still working on it. It's not, I wouldn't say that the system is perfect yet, but I would say that it's getting better every day, and we are banning a lot more people than you probably expect that we're banning. So
I guess it's up to me.
Yeah. In the meantime, can I flame them?
No, please don't do that.
I mean, if they're AFK, they won't hear you flaming them. So is that our text filter may interfere with that though.
Let's see here. Is there ever going to be a stats section like Smite 1 item store where you could see how much cooldown rate you have, how much penetration you have, how much HP5 or MP5, etc.?
There was a conversation about this, but I don't remember where it ended up. Can't you can see on the screen? I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like this is.
I believe the one in Smite 1, you have to pull up the scoreboard and then you can like click into yourself and you can see like the detailed like list of all the different stats and how much of each you have.
Yeah. So I know that like there is the on-screen stats, but they aren't like as comprehensive.
Right. Yeah.
I will say that as part of the new God Builder, it does show like the way that your stats would be impacted by the build that
that's
you
cool.
are proposing. At least in this current iteration, that might change before the final.
Yeah.
So I think that like we are, I guess I would say we're aware that it's something that people are concerned about. I don't remember the exact state or resolution of like the in-game situation. Yeah. So sorry that I don't have more of an answer for you on that.
Cool. But it's good to know that we're talking about it.
Yep.
Someone says it's in the store, by the way. That's where it is. It's in the store.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's all we've got for today. Kilgoon, thanks so much for joining me on a Friday for Titan Talk. Chat, thanks so much for hanging out and tuning in. Definitely have a really big update on Monday for you all to look forward to. I believe. Sorry.
And today is the last day to sign up for Christy Dixon's Joust tournament. So if you want to play Joust at a competitive level for money in Christy Dixon's tournament, you should go do that. I think he's at Christy Dixon on Twitter, probably.
Yes.
And he's been tweeting about it. So you can go sign up and do that.
Cool.
And playing it this weekend, I guess.
I know, right? Like, get into some Joust this weekend. Get ready for Open Beta 7 on Monday. I believe server maintenance is going to start around 7 a.m. Eastern Monday morning for Cerberus and all the other cool stuff coming in the next update. But until then, we will see you all on the Battleground. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. Peace.